One of the things that people often struggle with when they're first building a SaaS app or a product to sell online is understanding the tools that you need to use in order to make the app and understanding why you need to use those tools. So I'm going to explain to you in this video, step by step, each of the pieces of the puzzle that you need in order to actually build your first app and sell it for money. And I don't care whether you're vibe coding or you're trying to learn how to program and build it yourself, it doesn't matter. You're going to need all of these things in order to take your idea and turn it into something that people can pay for. So the first one I'm going to start with is Supabase. And there are a variety of tools similar to Supabase, but it's a brilliantly effective one. It's fairly priced, and whenever you have a database solution, which Supabase is, there's a few different things you want to look for. So number one, does it have a variety of ways to store data? And yes, Supabase does. It's very effective at storing in a Postgres style database. If you don't know what that means, it's okay. The point is that it can store your data. It also has authentication. So when you go to a website and you type in your email and a password, or maybe it's a Google authentication link, you're authenticating in, and Supabase has that functionality built in for you. So having that already connected to your database so that it's easy to tell that a user and the user's behavior is connected to data within your application and not having to build that yourself is fantastic. Supabase also has something called serverless. And we're going to get into what a server is and why you'll need one a little bit later. But suffice it to say, having your database, your authentication, and if you need it, serverless functions all in one place is very powerful. So I highly recommend Supabase as your database to begin with. The second thing you're going to need is what is called an IDE. It's an interactive development environment. And I recommend Cursor for most people because it's very easy to learn. However, you can also use one of the no-code tools like Replit or Bolt or Lovable. However, I think that Cursor is better. And the reason is because as you start to learn more and more, you are going to want to watch what your AI is trying to do to your application. If you start building with no code and you cannot track the changes that are happening over time, number one, you're not going to learn anything, which is a problem. But two, as you start to add more functionality to your application, the chances of something breaking goes up. And if you're in the position where part of your application breaks, it's a very frustrating experience. It's not something that's going to lead to you wanting to continue that application, and as a consequence, you might give up. So I highly recommend using Cursor because it will help you continue to learn as you're going through this process. It also has an agent mode, so it can do some of the work for you, as you can kind of see here on the side. It doesn't have to, but that is an option. And I really recommend at least having it there so you can ask questions if you're trying to learn to code on your own. The next piece of technology is Next.js. And the reason I recommend Next.js is because you don't need a server in the traditional way that you needed a server months or even years ago. If you have a Next.js application, baby, and okay, if you're trying to figure out what you should use in order to build the front end of your application, the reason I recommend Next.js is because it's built on top of React, which I believe is pretty easy to learn, but it also eliminates the need for you to do routing, which is something that can be a little complicated if you think of the slashes up here in a URL. If you do /abc/ whatever, the routing can be something that's a little hard to build, and Next.js will handle that for you. It also allows you to get data that is stored somewhere else in the cloud and bring it directly into your application. And Next has a lot of good tutorials, and most of the individual tools out there, including V0, which is from Vercel, who maintains Next, are all in one place and well supported. And why this is so important is because if you're vibe coding, you need the tools that you're using to be something that the models are very familiar with. You need ChatGPT to understand how to use the technology you're using, and Next.js, because it's so popular, is very easy to use in that regard. So pause for a second and think through what we've built so far. We have our database, We have a way to access a user, to be a user. We have a way to type code and create code. And we have a way to create a front end, a user part of our application that any individual can come and interact with. And that seems like the majority of what we need. The last two pieces I'm going to talk about are a little bit more special, but I highly recommend you learn them as well. The first one of these is Tailwind CSS. Tailwind is a method of writing CSS that allows you to style your website in a way that's fairly easy. And learning CSS can be very frustrating for beginners because there's multiple ways you can do things, and there's not a right and a wrong. With most coding, there's a right and a wrong way in a sense that if I type out a function, there's specific syntax that the function needs to have in order to work. And there are good patterns and bad patterns. In CSS, it's a little bit more like painting. It's a little bit more artistic. So there are multiple ways you can create and edit. And again, if you're jumping between a bunch of files, if you're vibe coding or you're having your AI agent help you, if you're able to do that in a way where you have the CSS visible to you, it makes it all easier. And just like with Next.js, Tailwind is supported by most of the major LLMs. They're all trained on Tailwind, so it's very effective and it's very fast. The last piece of this is Stripe. Lemon Squeezy, depending on where you are in the world, can also be a good option, but you need a way to collect money. And if you're building any kind of tool, any kind of software, if you can't take payments from end users, it's not going to be very effective in the long run. So these are the major tools that I recommend. If you're struggling to figure out how to integrate these tools together, or if there's other tools you're quite curious about, ask me a question in the comments. If you like this kind of video and you want to have more information on tooling and how to build your own apps, let me know in the comments as well. Like and subscribe if you enjoy this, and I'll talk to you later.